Hey, folks, I'm David Goldstein.
I am Brian Brinkman.
You're tuned into episode 133 of the Beyond the Pond podcast. This is the podcast since April of 2017 in which we utilize the music of Phish in an effort to get you to listen to other bands. These are usually not jam bands, albeit they kind of have been some jam bands as of late. Because we love Phish, we are Phish fans, especially when they're coming off a tour as good as the spring tour. Some problems, the problem with Phish fans is they get a bit myopic. They can tell you stats, dates, times, set lengths, everything about their favorite band. And then when you ask them about other acts, new music, they say, "What is this new music of which you speak?" And that's not good. And that's what we've been railing against for the past, Christ, 8 years.
8 years. We've had some stopgaps. We've gone a little slower in recent years, but we're still coming at you. We still text every day. Every day there's a new holy
Every
shit, this
goddamn day.
jam. Holy shit, this album. Holy shit, this Knicks win over the Celtics. Sorry, Josh Carver. We are still doing this thing. We're coming at you. We're so stoked, as Dave mentioned. We are going to be talking a bit about Phish today, quite a bit about Phish. They just had a very, very cool spring tour that had us both excited, and we're going to see what we liked about it, what our favorite moments, what we may have differentiated on. Was it a King Gizzard tease or was it not? We're also going to do, we've been doing this for a couple of years. Our minor league jam band check-in. Are they minor league jam bands anymore? A lot of big questions to ask about our two dudes from Connecticut. And then we're also going to share with you guys, since this is our first episode of our first episode of
Wow.
2025,
Lazy.
we're going to share with you guys some of our favorite records that have come out in this year. In a year that I think this is the first year since BTP started where listening to new music sometimes feels like eating my vegetables. So I'll leave that out there as a teaser. We'll come back to that. See how we're both feeling about new albums this year. But David, give us our themes for the episode, and then let's dive in.
Okay, so themes we can talk about in this episode include: what do we make of the last 4 years of Phish? Goose is now a quartet / Eggy continues to crush in our 2025 new album recommendations. And on that note, I'd usually say let's get to the Phish, but I think we're going to start with I guess we can get to the Phish.
We'll get to the Phish.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to the Phish. We're gonna get to the Goose and Eggy first. That is segment one, as the outline reads. I have to ask you though, before we dive in, you are up 2-0 with two away wins in Boston against the Boston Celtics, team I picked to win the NBA championship this year. How are you feeling? Are you feeling like this is the peak and the bottom's about to fall out? Do you feel like there's really something there? How are you doing right now?
There has to be something there, because you don't go up 2-0 on the defending champs in their home court if there's nothing there. So, yeah, I'm going to try my best to concentrate on this podcast. So my phone has been blowing up like it's the recent Hollywood Bowl chalked as torture, just all up in here. Yeah, no, the Celtics don't like playing close games, and it shows. The Knicks are the exact opposite, because they've got Captain Clutch in the court at all time. Well, when he's there, he's a closer, and Mikal Bridges has oddly been a fourth quarter closer. He's like, when the fourth quarter doesn't consist of like Susie Greenberg's 6-minute chalked as torture Golgi apparatus, when it consists of like a 25-minute Harry Hood, that's been Bridges.
That to me, that is your differentiator this year, is Mikal Bridges on your team. That is, I'm just pulling up for the Phish comp for everyone here. That is your, let's go with Wednesday, April 23rd, cross-eyed pillow Jets Yem fourth quarter. That is as good of a fourth quarter as you could ask for. We will scatter in some sports talk. We got a lot happening. I'm wearing my Gunners cap for those here who are hanging. We had a rough go today. Apparently, our manager thinks that we were the best team on the pitch both weeks in a row. I don't know, man. We can't score goals when we're supposed to score goals. So we're going to sprinkle some sports in throughout this. Let's dive in, though, to
Very much
our
like a little league team. You know, it's like you're like a little league coach. When a little league team gets knocked out of the playoffs, you say, guys, you were the best team out there, and I'm so proud to be your coach. Let alone this English Premier League, the EPL Arsenal. You guys are the best out there. Let's go to the pub and get a pint. It's on me.
let's yeah, it's I don't know. It's not what you're supposed to say to a bunch of professionals
No.
when you're owned by Stan Kroenke. So we'll get back to that. Let's do some Goose Eggy check in here. One of the it's one of the great things, but it's also one of the challenges of getting into other jam bands, as we've discovered over the last 5 years, is that the tours then just overlap. We used to just do Phish check-ins, and so throughout the year, we'd get our jams in, we'd get our new shows, and then we would go back to new music. And now we've got bands who are touring on a regular basis. Goose had a week-long run in February where they inexplicably debuted as a quartet, dream that we shared on this podcast. Eggy, we saw Eggy in Colorado about 2 months ago. You saw Eggy since then. So we're going to do a little bit of a check-in on them. But I do want to ask you, Dave, if someone were to discover this podcast based on today's episode and say, I want to hear what these guys say in another episode, and they went back to our previous episode, it would be from 4 or 5 months ago, and we would have a very different tone on Goose than I think we have right now. At the time, we were wondering, was Goose just a fad for us? Was it just a phase? Is this worth continuing and checking out? Well, then they debuted as a quartet in February. We got some pretty deep jams. They've officially become a quartet. They have released an hour-long really cool jam, the Zipline jam, which we will talk about. But tell me, how are you feeling about Goose on the eve of Viva La Gonzo, or whatever they're calling their festival in Mexico?
I like Quartet Goose. On one hand, I'm kind of happy that Jeff is no longer in the band because I thought he was dead weight. I thought that his congas sounded like the world's worst ping pong match bouncing around in my ears, and I couldn't quite understand what he
There
was
you
doing.
are. There he is, right there. There's Dave Goldstein. You guys hear this? He's speaking the truth.
It's just the back and forth. Yeah, and it's almost like whenever those shows were mixed, they had to I don't know, really amp up the congas. But anyway, the way he left the band, it sounds like he did some awful things to some awful people. So that's not, I should say he did something awful to a person. So that's not good. That's all speculation, of course. But it results in them being a quartet, which opens up a lot more space. It allows Cotter to show he can very much do this on his own. And some of those shows back in Michigan, the Grand Rapids, Michigan shows were some of the most interesting portions of Goose Jam we've seen in quite some time. And as you were saying, they most recently, they did this 90-minute show on the West Side in New York in a place called the Hudson Yards at this, it was an art event called Luna Luna, which was a bunch of Keith Haring kind of inspired carnival machinery, carnival work. I forget exactly what it was off the top of my head, but this was like a last minute thing. Tickets went on sale. I was not able to go, but basically 90-minute straight jam with a lot of help from Stuart Bogey on saxophone. And it's great. It sounds, it's multi-layered. When it gets going, it sounds like a very good drive jam. There's a lot of space, vocal cues. It actually manages to stay interesting throughout almost the entire 90 minutes, which is not quite something I think Goose is capable of doing when they had a percussionist. So happy about that.
I share the same sentiment. Big shout out to our super fan Chris Bartos right now. We promise we're going to get to the Phish, right? We just got to cover this. We haven't talked on air in too long, so just bear with us while we talk about the honkers. I made it very known. Was considering quitting Goose. I needed them to move on from their percussionist. They did me right, and I am fully back on board. I thought the February tour was absolutely phenomenal. Uh, Reminded me very much of winter 2022, parts of spring 2023, kind of my recent favorite moments in the band's history. You took out that weird dryer ping pong stuff. That sound effect that you got from Jeff in the background, and suddenly you had this much more focused, groove driven, little minimalistic band that I think, they are not, aside from the zipline jam, which you're absolutely right about, really, really interesting stuff for 90 minutes. Some minimalism, a little bit of bliss at the end, but like a real dedication to the groove. They're not 100% where I think they will be when they figure out how to really jam as a quartet over the next year. But pretty much, aside from parts of the fall, ever since Cotter came on board, the rhythm section's been much more interesting. Giving him the freedom to really hold it down gives them this swing, this kind of dexterity that they just didn't have. They can kind of turn on a dime in jams, which I think, as they, as they continue to evolve and as they continue to play together, especially over an elongated tour, we might hear some, those weird kind of jams from last summer, thinking about the Rockdale specifically from was that Westville, Connecticut, I think.
Yeah, that was the last show of summer tour last year, June 30th, Westville.
Yeah, those kind of jams with a little bit more of the groove. Shermith is hanging out with us here. He wants to hear my opinions on Folsom Summer Tour. He's a set Colorado person, and he has thoughts on it. I think we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into the Phish stuff and we start to think about spring tour and where things are going to go. But I will just say, I am personally very, very sad to not have the Dick's, that annual Dick's experience. There's something about the weather. You walk out of Dick's on night 4 and it feels like fall all of a sudden. And I love sharing that transitional moment with Phish and with all of these people that come to town to visit us. I love the routine of Dick's. I love the exhaustion of Dick's. I love the jams and the way that the music kind of bounces around that venue. But I'm kind of excited for a little bit of a change. I'm excited. I'm excited for the fact that Phish coming to Denver does not align with the busiest time of year for me, and I get to have a little bit of fun, a little bit more relaxation. I think there's gonna be a little bit more space at Folsom Field, which should be very nice. Are you worried at all about losing that late fall or that late summer vibe that you get from Dick's? Are you okay with the Folsom Field adjustment this year?
It's 4th of July weekend, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What screams more 4th of July than seeing Phish in Colorado? That's like a classic 4th of July. That's like when the Grateful Dead played Texas on July 4th, 1981, and Bobby couldn't believe his luck when they opened with Jack Straw. He's like, he tries to sing like T for Texas, 4th day of July, and he can't believe. He's like, oh, leaving Texas, 4th day of July. So
He was loving it.
He's loving it. That's a great show, by the way. 7/4/81, one of my favorite early 80s Dead shows.
Fast Dead.
I'm not going to be in Colorado for those shows, but I think Folsom and Boulder, it's a good to have a change of pace now and then.
I think we'll be back at Dick's, so I'm okay with it for 1 year.
Superfan Ben, we have Ben Greenfield saying Hollywood Bowl in April is the new Dick's. Yeah, he's not wrong entirely. Oh.
It's an interesting point. I think if you want to look at the data, Dick's 2011 was really good, really good, very solid. Hollywood Bowl 2023, I would say, was pretty close to phenomenal. The difference is Dick's 2012. Yeah. The difference is Dick's 2012 is one of the best runs of the last 15 years of, if not all time. Hollywood Bowl 25, I don't think was as good as 23. We're going to talk about this. So, I don't want to spoil our takes here, our bad takes here, but I do think parts of Hollywood Bowl 25 were really great. I do think the vibe of going to, Southern California in late April is a very cool thing that they should absolutely do. All right, really quickly, back to Goose. Really quickly, I promise the last thing we're going to say about the Honkers. We got all of our like dedicated fans in here who are like, guys, come on, get through this. But I do want to get your thoughts. What are your expectations for the upcoming Mexico weekend that Goose is playing in just a day? And what are your thoughts on Goose Summer Tour? Are you seeing any shows? Do you have any thoughts on kind of where you expect the jamming to go?
The only show I have tickets for is the tour closer, June 29th at Westwood Music Bowl in New Haven. I've seen, I think, every Goose show at that venue that they played, just because it's really close to my parents' house. It's kind of become a fun summer tradition to see Phish, to see Goose at the Westwood Music Bowl. Don't currently have a ticket to see them at the Garden because that is the night before, and Goose still is not a back-to-back band for me yet. And I think there's going to be tickets falling off the tree for that show if I decide to go at the last minute. So what am I hoping for? Hoping for more 20, 25-minute jams where they really get to lock into a groove and embrace the fact that they only have one very good drummer. And I think they have some new songs off the album that came out like 2 weeks ago they haven't played before. I guess the song Dustin Hoffman has the potential to be decent live. When they play the song Your Direction, I'm going to go to the bathroom because that is every sense of the word a bathroom song. Let's just talk about that record.
Everybody tells me that song is Steely Dan. What say you?
What, you mean No Direction or Dustin Hoffman?
Your Direction.
No, it's Fleetwood Mac's Dreams. Come on.
Okay, I get that. It doesn't have the like sharpness and like the weirdness that you would
Fleetwood
expect
Mac's
from
Dreams as played by a Steely Dan cover band. It's not. That record's 90 minutes. I mean, don't clown yourselves with 90-minute record, guys. There's never been. If I ever put out a record, I'm gonna make sure all killer, no filler, even if it has to be like 23 minutes long. There's no good 90-minute records.
Yeah, I've really settled into the belief that both albums and movies need to be capped at a certain length. And I think for an album, and I think books as well. I'm consuming everything right now, and I've got thoughts on this. I think that albums should be no more than 39 minutes, unless you are deliberately making a double album. I think that movies should be no more than 110 minutes, unless we're talking about like a true historical epic that requires all of the context. None of these like 6 false endings. I don't need it. No 20 minutes before the credits roll at the top of the movie. Like just we don't need like a 20-minute cold open in a movie. I'm sorry. And then for books, I think like 275. Like if you can say what you need to say in 275 plus go on some diversions, like that's everything. That's everything. I don't need 450 pages of like all of this stuff happening.
I just finished a book that was 659 pages and it took me about 4 months to finish. And I feel that it was the ending that wasn't the payoff. I'm like, I got to finish this book. I got to finish it. The ending's going to pay off. And it didn't really. I'm like, all right.
I read 2 books earlier this year, Orbital and The Safe Keep, that were both under 300 pages, and both were just like, it gave me everything I wanted. Now, I read a book last year, The Bee Sting, that was about 620.
Right,
I was totally worth it.
Well, I'm reading The Bee Sting, which is like over 600 pages.
Amazing book. Don't get me wrong. That I think needed the 600, but that's a rare beast. I don't think that getting back to Everything Must Go. I don't think that this is a 90-minute album. I think that this is a very, very, very solid 37-minute long album with about 50 minutes of B-side filler.
I'll even give them 45 minutes. There's a lot of the songs
Sure,
that have
fine.
really good horn arrangements. I think once again Stuart Bogey was involved. He played sax on the record. He did have like the horn arrangements, and some of the songs that I don't love in the live setting, like California Magic and Feel It Now, both totally come alive when they add horns. Um, the songs in side B being Atlas Dogs, Silver Rising, Feel It Now, California Magic, How It Ends. None of those songs I love live, but I thought they came off very, very good in the studio. It's interesting. It's like I didn't expect to like side B as much as side A on paper. That's what I keep coming back to. And I have listened to it more than once. So
I agree. I think side B is the stronger side. I think that they made the fatal error that every jam band makes, where they say, "Hey, we've got 14 songs. Let's put them all on a record."
yeah,
I,
it's
I
a
don't
clearinghouse.
I
It's on a
don't
record.
understand. You know this. This has been I will die on this hill. I do not understand jam band approaches to albums. There are two things that I don't get. One, they throw every fucking song on an album so it has absolutely no flow. And number two, 5-minute studio cuts is not the best thing that you all do. Every one of them is guilty of this. Like, take the weird noise rock madness of your live show. You guys are all brilliant with effects. You guys improvise on a dime. That is why we see you. That's why we follow you. Give me that in wax form. I need it. We're getting a note though from our producer Chris Bartos here. Kemba is a 5,800 capacity venue. Shot and Sign is 18,000 capacity. These two bands are not the same. Let's talk Phish. We're going to do that because our producer told it to us in our ears. But before that, we do really quickly. I hope this doesn't piss you off, Mr. Producer. Eggy, we got to just quickly talk Eggy because they have been on tour here throughout the spring. I think that they've been touring pretty much endlessly since mid-February, it feels like.
Yeah, they've
It's been
been touring endlessly and putting free streams up on YouTube when they can. That they don't really publicize, so they only get like 95 people watching them. But if you subscribe to their YouTube channel and they're playing, there's like a 75% chance that they'll just like pop the camera up on the soundboard and you can watch the show.
Yeah, it's very much the DIY phase. I think that they're two
Super
tours
DIY.
removed from their almost famous tour. They're getting there. Like, the vibes are really cool. The first time I saw them, they were opening for Twiddle. The last time I saw them, they had a nearly full room up in Boulder, Colorado, where when they busted into Let's Dance, they had the entire venue in the palm of their hand. It was one of those very special. Everyone's digging the set. Oh my God, they're playing Bowie. Let's fucking go. And like the party just like took another step up. So it's been very cool to follow them. I think the jamming has been awesome for the most part. This overall tour hasn't been as heavy as parts of 24 and parts of spring 23. But I think on the whole, they're great jams from this tour, like the February 8th Shatter, Moonlight, Shatter, Laurel, Shadow, excuse me. The 4-5 Way of the Stone, the 4-9 Burritos, 425 Northern Lights, Hux, Northern Lights. If those sound like a foreign language to you, you need to get down with some Eggy because there's some great stuff there. But Dave, tell me what your thoughts have been on the 2025 tour for Eggy thus far. How have the new songs fit in? What have you thought about kind of the jamming evolution as we move forward in this band's history?
So I've seen Eggy twice this year. The first time was March 1st, 2025 in Boulder, Colorado. I actually went to go see Brian in person that weekend. I flew out. We went to Red Rocks. We had some nice dinners. I got to watch this kid play basketball, and we got to go see Eggy. And I got to sleep on a cot. I guess it's a bed in the very room that there you
It's a
go.
bed.
It's a bed.
It's right
Okay,
behind me.
kind of low to the ground. got to sleep in the BTP studio. So much history in that studio. I felt it coursing through my veins.
We even got to watch the Oscars together.
Yeah.
You join me in my tradition where I watch the Best Picture winner immediately when the Oscars ended. We threw on Anora at like 10 o'clock at night and just like went for that ride. It was so much fun. Second time seeing that. That was a great weekend. Really good weather weekend
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, phenomenal weather weekend. So that through and Boulder show, it was excellent, and it kind of Eggy has been very much showcasing some of their newest songs in 2025. They wrote two brand new songs. They got a song called Trixieville and a song called Shatter, which I think are among their best songs, and they know it because they've been playing them like crazy. Like the levels of like Phish playing like Landlady in 1992 is like how much
Mhm.
you've been getting those two songs. And the Boulder show, it was a rock show. They've gotten very good at putting together a big two-set rock show. Lots of segues. Sometimes they get a bit segue happy, a bit tease happy. Um, and the second time I saw them was 2 weekends ago at the end of their spring tour at Webster Hall in New York City, which is a 1,000-seat venue, and it was nearly sold out. Like on a Saturday night in New York, they nearly got 1,000 people to come out. And I think that was also the fourth or fifth show where they got to show off their brand new light rig. They've got a dedicated lighting director now. They've got a big boy light rig. And in the jam band world, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
When you get a huge light rig and the band look like awesome shadows on stage, because up until that point, their lights were not very special and they just look like dorks up on stage. They look fucking cool. It's like they're men now, they're not boys. They're up there and they're rocking. And some of my friends, that was the first Eggy show. And my friend Evan, who's actually a big fan of Beyond the Pine, he turns to me and he's like, I've been told these guys don't riff. What are they talking about? These guys rip. Jake Brownstein, the guitarist, he rips. Like, yeah. He's like, is this what Eggy always sounds like? And I said, this show was more straightforward, ripping, hard rocking, and not quite as like cerebral as other
Yeah.
Eggy shows, but yeah, this is what you can come to expect. And he's like, wow, yeah, they're uh they're fucking good.
Yeah, they there's a strange misperception I think around Eggy. I hear it by those who are curious, but also like looking for a way out. Because like I get it when we started listening to Eggy, I was like, "There's absolutely no chance I can take on a third jam band. I just can't." Now there's no way out because we've been listening to them for so long. We've seen the development. We've heard some huge jams. Stuff like the 12-3-22 Onitsuka that really got me on board. The May 23 tour that really like showcased for us that like set list variation. Fall 23 we thought was really excellent, especially the four Midwestern shows in October. Last spring was just unending. I saw them in Boulder, and it was one of the best shows I saw all year. And that includes seeing Phish Mexico and Phish Dicks. They tighten things up a little bit in the fall, and here they're letting things breathe again. But there's a little bit more of that like aggressive rock edge. You're seeing that kind of Guitar Hero confidence come out of Jake. It's always been there. He's always had the talent. I think one thing you and I noticed that it was an appealing aspect of Eggy for us from the jump because it was so anti-Goose almost is the fact that Jake didn't like the jams didn't rely on Jake ripping. The jams, like he integrated himself within the jams really well. And it's been very cool. And your show is a great example of it. Your show from Webster Hall of the band kind of leaning into like, we have a sick lead guitarist and he's just going to shred for you guys tonight. And let's see how you all like it. And that's usually
Yeah,
a really good access point for listeners.
yeah. No, I mean that show had some heavy hitters. Like they played both of their good new songs. What they played Burritos El Chavo 2. That's one of the Eggy classics. They also brought out Hamilton Lighthouser from the Walkmen to sing 2 songs. New York Celebrity. Brian's camera froze. Can you still hear me, Brian? Am I here alone? Let me see what is going on. Your camera froze. Seeing no idea what's happening with my internet. Stand by. Well, let's see. Oh. What else can I tell the world about Eggy in this time when it's the solo David Goldstein podcast? Well, let me see. Basically, if you enjoy democratic jamming, excellent guitar solos, and a very good light show, I would encourage you to check them out. I just saw that they put on sale. Okay. Brian's back. I was just going to say Eggy put on sale a Phish after show at Brooklyn Bowl to be in between the 2 shows of Forest Hills. I can just about guarantee you I'm not going to be at that. I'm happy to
The after parties just don't live in
Yeah.
our world anymore. Yeah, I'm back. Fans of HF Pod will know that I seem to have, like, the internet just seems to die in Colorado at least once an episode. So I hopefully that was the one time of the quota here today. We're live, baby. This is what happens. We're not in a studio with a bunch of edits. Like, this is not our jam band studio album. This is our live jam band studio album. So thank you everyone for hanging here with us. Yeah, the new songs I wanted to ask you because I think we were both, I don't want to say down on Waiting Game, but I think we had some questions about both the album rollout, some of the production choices, and the fact that a lot of the songs felt a little softer and a little bit smoother than what we kind of were anticipating. And, like, Eggy's so interesting because there is like a smooth rockness to them that they lean into really nicely. They're very tight. There is kind of that yachty rock kind of feel to some of their songs and kind of their allure. This felt very extreme in that sense to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it personally landed with me the way I was hoping it would. It was clearly a big deal to them. But then personally, I saw these songs in October when I saw their Fort Collins and their Denver show, and the new songs just like fit right in perfectly. And songs like Way of the Stone, A Moment's Notice, like these songs like just immediately felt like Eggy songs live, and they felt like they expanded in the live show. Whoa There, another one like that. What have your thoughts been on how the new songs have infiltrated the live show and how they're impacting the band's performances going forward?
I think that all the songs in Waiting Game are objectively good, well-written songs, and they sound very good on stage. So in addition to the Waiting Game songs, you have to talk about Whoa There. I think Atomic Age is newer, plus the aforementioned Trixievill and Shatter. And those 4 songs are probably amongst some of their best written, sound good on the stage songs. And the Waiting Game songs, like you said, Way of the Stone, Shallow Rivers, I like quite a bit. Smile, Laurel, they're all good songs. Waiting Game itself, I think when they recorded with James Petrarli, they thought that they were getting the 2011 Rippin' White Denim version of James Petrarli, as opposed to the 2023 smooth, not nearly as interesting White Denim version, because he basically, I don't know if that record has any balls. I mean, maybe that's kind of a crude way of putting it, but there's no bass, and it kind of takes the smoothness way too much in the opposite direction. Like, there shouldn't be a situation. Well, I mean, a jam band studio record, optimally, you should say, if you want to get an idea for what this band sounds like, here's the new studio record. I would not recommend Waiting Game for people who are really trying to get into Eggy, because I think it was an experiment that didn't entirely work.
Yeah. Let me make a soccer comp. I think that the waiting game songs live versus the waiting game songs on the studio album are akin to when Trossard subs in for Arsenal. It's
Mm.
just like you got a pair of cojones in a 5'11" Belgian running around the field who is just like, let me score a goal. Let me just mess some fuckers up. Question here from Chris Bartos, which thanks for hanging around. We've given you a lot of it looks like you're an Eggy fan based on the comments. We gave you a lot of goose. We're getting to the Phish in like 2 minutes, I promise. But Chris asked, did they jam waiting game? The Philadelphia
Yeah, Philly.
the Philadelphia show, yeah, has a great waiting game jam towards the end of that second set. That's kind of the cerebral, like they did like an A/B test in Philly and New York. Philly's a little bit more of the cerebral jamming. If you want kind of the weird kind of out of nowhere type of weird, type 2 jamming, go to the Philly show. If you want like a really rip and rockin' version of Eggy, that New York show is a great way to do it. But the waiting game towards the end of Philadelphia sounds like a 2000 gin, just like really
Yeah.
fast, just like pedal to the metal type of stuff.
Yes.
All right, last thing on Eggy before we get to the Phish.
Mhm.
Give me your favorite jam or your favorite segment of the year so far, so that if someone is sitting here like, where do I go with Eggy? What is the one jam or one jam segment you're going to go to?
I'll just give you a show, and the show would be from Minneapolis
Yeah,
in what is that?
February 8th.
February. Yeah, okay. Yeah, February 8th in Minneapolis is probably my favorite Eggy show of the year so far. Just
That's
because,
what. Yeah.
hold on, I'm just trying to pull it up on the old telephono here.
Well, I
Yeah,
was referencing it earlier. That Shatter, Midnight Moonlight, Shatter, Laurel,
yeah,
Shadow segment. That's everything
flawlessly
you want from
fun,
Eggy.
fun jamming, kind of goofy, kind of nerdy, kind of calling back to themselves. That's just a phenomenal second set. And if you want a really good first set, a few nights later at the Wow Hall, Woodman of the World Hall in Eugene, Oregon, they play a first song, first set, 4 songs in the first set, 3 Eggy originals, and then a 19-minute version of Wilco's "I'm Trying to Break Your Heart," which sounds
Yeah.
great. So that's where I would direct the Eggy Curious.
Those are great calls. I have the Sweat Equity Boomer Bust and Sweat Equity on my overall list. I think I'm going to go with a recent jam segment from Philadelphia, 425 Northern Lights into Hux, back into
It's really,
Northern Lights.
it's really cool.
It's really cool. My two favorite Eggy songs are Onitsuka Tiger and Northern Lights. And Northern Lights is kind of if like Bug were a great jam vehicle for Phish. It's just like that kind of tugs at the heartstrings melody, really nice, like pretty little pop song that then turns into a jam every so often and like will give you kind of like a 15 to 20-minute long version of itself that I love. But really, really stoked to get that segment. I mean, my favorite shows, they opened up the year with Deerfield, Mass. The
Treehouse.
Treehouse Brewing. The Figure It Out from that show is outstanding. Minneapolis, Eugene, Salt Lake City. We've had some great Eggy shows thus far this year. I'm excited to see how the remainder of the year goes. I'm hoping that we get another show out here in the fall. I would love to be able to see them again in the fall, and keep your eyes and ears peeled at this segment of the internet, because we're working on a conversation with those guys. We've got some shared camaraderie, shared love for similar music, and
We're
we want to
trying.
just give them as much love as possible. So hopefully soon we'll have an episode of that here coming up. All right. We've given you guys a desired album length worth of Goose and Eggy. We're at 39 minutes. We need to go to some Phish. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, All right, let's dive into this. Uh, Phish just wrapped up an 8-show spring 2025 West Coast tour, almost identical to the West Coast tour from 2023. The only difference here, they played Portland this year, and they played Bill Graham versus the Greek Theater. So very similar vibes, very similar time of year. I'm a huge fan of Phish playing at this time of year. It just feels like the world is waking up. And it's really nice after the winter Mexico webcasts to have the ability to have the house open, baseball on my cell phone while I'm watching Phish, while I'm reading a nice book because it's light outside and there's beautiful light pouring in while Phish is playing. It's not, like summer tour where we've got the AC pumping because it's like 95 degrees outside. It's just very cool, very calm, very chill. I'm very into this time of year for Phish. But I want to ask you, Dave, like a big picture question, because we are now in year 4 of Phish 4.0. As everyone knows, there was a global pandemic 5 years ago. Phish canceled their summer and assuming their fall tour as well in 2020. They played 4 shows in Mexico. They came back. They came back with a vengeance. We had 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We've celebrated their 40th anniversary. We've gotten the first Gamehenge. I mean, there's been a lot. These 4 years have been pretty crazy. What do you make at this point in time, now that like where we are right now is the equivalent of 2013 Phish in Phish 3.0, in terms of like how long it's been since they've been back? What do you make of Phish 4.0 at this point in time? And where do you think this hangs in their larger career?
I think one thing I think about Phish 4.0 is that they've really gotten away from the 12 to like 11, 13 song first sets where they'll just throw out a bunch of songs at random that they tended to do in the early 3.0, like I would say 2009 right up through like even 2014. And that's a positive development. I think Trey, as a guitarist, he's leaning on much more in the way of effects, whether it has to do with like decreased dexterity or he's really doing things like utilizing things like a rotary chorus pedal. You're getting a lot of delay, a lot of envelope filter. Like whereas in 1.0 is basically just like your basic 2 tube screamers, you get like lots of ripping, straight up and down ripping rock guitar. Now you're getting lots of psychedelic clouds. We've got Forbin 777 here says incredibly consistent ability to get to the interesting places every show. Yes, I would agree with that entirely. It's like it's not at the point where, not that I ever turn Phish webcast off, but you never know when they have the ability to turn it on. They're kind of like the 2025 New York Knicks in the playoffs. You can't turn it on because you never know when they're going to go on that run. It could come at the end of the first set. It could become in the fourth quarter. It's been an incredibly positive stretch of Phish, and I don't see any reason for it to stop because I think that they're all in good health. I think that they're all eager to keep doing it, and they have kind of, it would almost seem like if they keep doing this West Coast spring tour in April, then a summer tour followed by, like Madison Square Garden with some tab shows, whatnot thrown in. It's almost like with the Grateful Dead, how you were guaranteed like, the East Coast tour up in September, whereas in February and March, sometimes they always play like Hampton in March. Kind of having a schedule, it could be good for them to kind of, when these things get routed, like maybe like 9 months to like a year up in advance. But in terms of interesting psychedelia that go to new and surprising places in every show, I think it's a very good time to be a Phish fan. And as we keep saying, this is uncharted waters because no band has been this good for this long that keeps doing it. Like this would be their 42nd year as a band if you go back 83.
Yeah. This is number 42. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean it is crazy because I mean like, a band that we've referenced many times and we've talked a lot about and emerged around the same time, U2 is not making as quality
Mm.
of music today as they were making during the peak of their career. It's a distant memory at this point in time. Um, you know, the thing that I like I think if Phish right now were playing the way that they played in like 2011, 2014, 2016, these kind of like down years in 3.0 where it felt a bit more tame, and it felt a bit more like uh you know, not a nostalgic act, but it felt like, well, we know what people want, so we give them that, but we're also just kind of playing through the songs. If it were like that, I would definitely still be listening and still be discussing, still be talking, but I definitely would not be as energized as I am. I think you said it really well there. These are uncharted waters, not just in terms of like a rock legacy, but in terms of like where the band is evolving, the toys that they bring up on stage and how those impact the jams, the way that they rewrite the set lists in a lot of ways. Chris Bartos, the night one back on the train.
Oh
That's like the
God,
fourth or fifth song of the tour. Yeah, fourth song of the tour.
that was
You
crazy.
figure you figure we're just getting like a standard 9 minute back on the train, cool, solid little mid set groove. Oh no, it's going dark, it's going weird, and we go on for 18 minutes. And like you said, you can't really look away because you have no idea when that's going to happen. It can happen in a second song, Bathtub Gin. It can happen, in the last song of the first set. They finally get it going. You know, jumping back a couple runs, but the 1229 show from MSG started out pretty hot, pretty cool, and then they had this like, what the hell is going on in MoMA Dance? What's going on in Runaway Jim?
Mm.
Oh my God, you guys are playing Yem now, and now you're playing Ghost, and then lo and behold, we get a 37-minute Ruby Waves. Like it just
Ooh, yeah.
the tours, the shows move. You reference the Knicks right now. I would reference like the Cubs right now, where like any inning they could put on 7 runs and the game is just completely out of reach. It's hard to look away because they are playing both so well and also just kind of falling into inspiration in a really cool way, in a way that I think when we started this podcast we always dreamed that they would do, where they would play a show and you weren't just guaranteed 12 songs in the first set and then some jamming in set 2. There was a surprise factor. And ever since they came back in 2021, that's been a reality.
Like some of with this most recent run, the Hollywood Bowl shows weren't quite as good as Bill Graham or Seattle or Portland, and yet had any single one of those shows taken place in say 2019, we'd be falling over ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the bar has been set very high. Even in 2022, I would say it's the consistency now is at a very, very high level where even the somewhat less interesting shows are still at a level that we'd be falling over ourselves in 2022 or 2019 or any of the, I guess, the more recent quote unquote down years of Phish.
Yeah. And this definitely, I mean, it is pretty unprecedented in this sense. I want to bring this comment back up because I don't personally think that this is hyperbole. It's a pretty big comment to make. I agree with it. I want to talk with you about this, but this is big friend of the pod, Ev Dude. Phish 4.0 is the best stretch of Phish since the mid to late 90s. And before you respond like a jaded vet that you are and say, listen, son, I was there in 95.
Yeah.
I was there in 97. Let me just build a quick case using data. Um, Phish 1993, I think we both would call, well, spring 92 is kind of like the start of this big run, but like a lot of those shows are 12 song first sets, 12 song second sets, maybe a little bit of jamming and tweezer, but not a lot of jamming throughout. The jamming emerges in 93, but these are still very song heavy shows. Fall 94, we worship at the heels of, but still like there is a lot of structure to those shows, like where you're not really getting the deep jamming aside from Split Open and Melt until set 2. Even in 95 that's the case. You look at like 97, 96 is one of these down years. You look at 97, 98, and 99. It's this 3-year stretch of clear evolution, clear jamming, um, clear dedication to improvisation at any point in the show. 99, it starts to get a little dark, and that we kind of make that push into the 2.0 era. But on the whole, 99 has some like really high jamming, has the Big Cypress effect as well. When you think about when you think about these shows and or this era, excuse me, of Phish, do you think it's on par with the best of Phish in the mid to late 90s? Are you willing to go on record saying yes, or do you think that that's just like absolute youngins shooting their shit because they weren't there?
Well, factoring in that the band members now are all in the early 60s, and that, no, I would say yes. I think it is the best stretch of Phish since the mid to late 90s. Yeah, because especially considering the advanced ages of the band members and the fact that they're able to keep it this interesting and they keep finding new wrinkles, whether now that they're using in-ear monitors so they can hear themselves better, they're not using wedges, so they're not getting up on stage and blasting their eardrums every night. That's got something to do with it. They have a whole variety of new toys. Mike especially has a pedal board that was nowhere near what he was using in the 90s. Page has got a whole rack of synths that he didn't have before. Trey has a whole bunch of new effects and pedals, but he's even gone back to using I think like the OG Marmar guitar, right?
Yeah, he was using that throughout the spring tour.
Okay, interesting. Has an amazing tone. So yeah, I think that the level of creativity 42 years in, and given the ages of the band members, it's look, if you're listening to Beyond the Pond, you have to kind of buy what me and Brian have been selling you for 133 episodes. And we're still like Phish. We wouldn't keep doing this if we didn't think that they were on a heater. Like there were some times in 2019 things got a bit dire. Like how long can they keep this up? I mean, I don't want to say anything good came out of a global pandemic, but it allowed Phish to have a reset.
Yeah,
Really kind
they
of
needed it.
sparked their creativity in a major way, and it's been balls out ever since.
Yeah, and I mean, I posed this question, and you know, I answered my question as I was posing it. I feel this way. I'm very much on board with this. I listen to a lot of, just based on a couple listening projects I have right now. I'm listening to a lot of 90s Phish next to 4.0 Phish. And you made a really good point. You cannot deny the impact of youth, the hunger, the drive that they had the first time that you figure something out. I think that what's really interesting for me, and if you allow
Plus,
me to make
they're playing a lot more shows than the 90s.
they were playing a lot more shows. So like there was just like a night to night consistency, that the whole thing was different in the sense that you couldn't get each show that night. You had to put in a little bit of work for that, trade some tapes, meet up with some people, however you did it. Like there was a different feel to listening back to those shows than it is right now. But that said, like, if you allow me to make a pretty crazy comparison, which I've probably made on this podcast before, at least once over 133 episodes. When I grew up in the 90s, and there was this perception that when an artist hit like 40, they were past their best period. They were, you're over the hill, your greatest songs are behind you. Now it's all this like new shit that nobody wants to hear at the show, but you want to play. So like you'd go to see a classic rock star, they'd play like 55 minutes of new songs, and then that hit from 1974 that you were just dying to hear. And that idea has been flipped on its head. And I think Phish is a part of it. I think Bob Dylan is a part of it. The
Hmm.
sense that an artist, when they get past their youth, has a ton more to say, can pick up new listeners. Maybe they lose a few of the casual listeners, but they keep this like very dedicated core. And if you continue to do what Phish has been doing, especially in the last 5 years, you're just having people dive further and further into the listening project and into the experience of seeing you, because they feel like they need to continue seeing you. It's not something that they can miss. There's no tour show that, like, if it comes near you, would be worth missing because of how quality they can be on a night to night basis. And that's a very rare thing. I think that you spoke really well about, the in-ear monitors and the new technology is clearly helping to, number one, foster new ideas within jams, number two, preserve their hearing while also allowing them to communicate easier on stage. And I think the health factor, and the fact that we're 20 plus years past them breaking up at Coventry, this is a band that they've weathered the road, they've weathered the storm. They're at a point on the other side where there's not as much pressure on them at this point. There's almost zero pressure on them at this point in time. Um, they've made all the money that they need to make. It's literally just, do we want to play a concert? Cool, let's play a concert. And you get the result of this very relaxed, creative feel from four guys who know each other so damn well on a night to night basis.
And it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, but in terms of technology sparking ideas, look at like the Grateful Dead from 1989 to 1991.
Yes.
I mean, my favorite years of Grateful Dead are probably 72, 74, and 1990, just because it's possible for a band to get energized and better, some would say better and more original as they get older. I mean, you don't have to have your best work in the past. There's ways that you can unlock the magic. And that's what the Dead did when they got like MIDI capabilities in the late 80s. And that's, I think what Phish has been doing as of late.
I went down a really funny deep dive last night where I was I was reading about the stock market in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Because I read an article comparing like what we may be entering right now to that, and I had never really like dove in and looked like at that decade and how the market moved, and it was fascinating to see that from January 1973 to December 1974, the Dow Jones just cratered. Like it was a straight line down, and that happens to coincide with like my two favorite Grateful Dead years.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say, as the Dead got really, really good, the Dow just cratered. all those fill bombs created like craters.
right.
The wall is the fucking wall of sound destroyed Wall Street.
Right.
All
But
the
the Dead
money
were
went
great.
into the wall.
It makes like US blues and just the idea of like dropping out and hitting the road. It makes so much sense. Interesting question here from Forbin 777. This is something you and I have actually talked about. Does the length of shows now factor in? We get 50% more Phish now too. And this is a trend that has been pretty apparent since the Sphere shows. Those shows were noticeably longer. They were about 90-minute sets. Especially those second sets, man, they went so late, and there were deep jams late in the set as a result of it. You and I talked about this in kind of a critical fashion throughout the latter part of 2024, but I think it has bounced back in some ways. What are your thoughts on the length of the show? The fact that, and with the live Phish, you know, um, with the updated version, I think it's been updated for about 3 years now, but they show you set times, and it's really
Right.
fascinating to look at like a 90s first set that's like 65 minutes versus, today. And even if you go through parts of 3.0, there are full runs of tour or of shows where first sets are like 65 minutes, second sets are maybe 71 minutes. We're getting like a full 85 to 90 minute long first and second set here. How do you think that has impacted them in any way?
I'm kind of earlier in the podcast, you said books should be 275 and movies should be 110. I would have believed that second set should be 75 minutes. And that's it. And say what you got. If you can't sell me in 75 minutes, then I'm not a big fan of the 90-minute sets. I think everything could be stand to be trimmed by about 15, 20 minutes. And actually, some of the better sets on the most recent spring tour were only like 69, 71 minutes. They weren't all 90-minute behemoths where Trey just keeps going and tacking on songs where you're like, oh, this is a long set. Oh, this is a long set. Why are they going to play Ghost now? The set's already 83 minutes long. What the fuck? So
Yeah,
I
fall on either side, because I think that on the one hand, it's incredibly impressive that they can do it. I think on the other hand, I just pulled up the Dick set list from this past September, and two sets in particular that were truly outstanding, but then had about 15 minutes tacked on that I
yeah,
don't think
yeah,
made
yeah.
it bad, but it took away from the flow. And so I'll just read it really quickly. 8:30, chalk dust, sand, ruby, what's the use, possum, everything's right. Now I have nothing against an everything's right set closer. I do think that you end that with possum and it's just this like boom, gone. We're like, get out of here. You know, like we did it. Now we're coming to come back for the
Mic
encore.
drop.
Mic drop. The
That's
next
it.
night is even more egregious. The Loving Cup, Kill Devil Falls, What's Going Through Your Mind, Cross-Eyed, Split Open and Melt. That is a
Monsters.
five song second set that
They
is
play
like
monsters.
frame that shit, frame it. And then
Frame
we
it.
got Monsters Carini, which was kind of like, okay, I
Hmm.
don't know why we're having like the encore in the second set already. So I hear Corbin's point in the question he's asking here, that like we are getting more Phish, and that's very, very impressive. I think that, to your point, Dave, we're starting to see a bit of better flow to that than what we were seeing in 2024. I think the jury's still out if the longer second sets are really, really where it's at. I don't think they're going away, but I think that the band just needs to like, Trey needs to think one step ahead from a flow standpoint, knowing that he's got 15 more minutes in the set. Because at that point, I think his instinct is like, fuck it, let's just go Julius 2001 character 0.
I saw Jack White this past February, and the show, the show with the encore, 90 minutes on the nose, perfect. It was so intense. It was so loud. It was so rocking. When he just ended it after 90 minutes, I'm like, great. That's all I need. Drop the
That's it.
mic. And that's like almost the length of like a first set of Phish. Then you still have a whole other 90 minutes to go. I mean, it's all what you get used to. Obviously, the level of intensity of a Jack White show over that 90 minutes is ramped up because he's in the red all the time. But I mean, honestly, other than Phish, other than jam bands, there's really no band I have to see for more than 75 minutes. That's
Yeah.
just say what you got to say. Give me your best or 75 minutes. Let me go home. I'll say that was great. Let me want more. I'll see you again when you swing through town. But yeah, with the exception of like some jam bands, I'm a wham band. Thank you, ma'am.
Get in, get out.
Go hard. Yeah.
Interesting question here as well, as we're just kind of diving through here. I appreciate all the questions you guys are throwing in. It's fun to like, we used to do these BTPs over Zoom and it was just the two of us. And now it's fun to like see how many people are hanging with us. So thank you guys. Ev Dude asks, slightly different topic, but will be interesting to see if they start to add some more tunes to the rotation. I would love Outside the Lines and Shaking Someone's Outstretched Hand, which just reminded me of the incredible Trey Trio run from the Mission Ballroom, a band that has only existed once and never again. I was lucky enough to catch 2 of 3 of those shows. But I'm curious, Dave, are there any, let's go Ghost of the Forest to present, or let's go Casual Vox to the present, songs that you wish would just kind of start to trickle back more into the rotation?
Outside the Lines, yes. Despite having the exact same bass line as the Eggy song Finding and Losing. Outside the I like Outside the Lines a lot.
Yeah.
Shaking someone's outstretched hand, not so much.
You're not
So
into that.
no.
Okay. Okay.
Outside the Lines was great. I was really good with the Trade Trio. That was a really good song when he played it with I guess Classic Tab, which was the court. What was that? Trey, Ray, Desron, and Russ Lawton, just the four of them. Otherwise, I really like the new song "What's Going Through Your Mind." That's a great new Phish song. That's evidence
Totally.
that Trey still got it. Let me think. In terms of Casvote songs, if they wanted to play "We Have Come to Outlive Our Brains" more, I'm very happy with that song.
Maybe some play by play.
Yeah, the play-by-play. Cool Amber
That is
Mercury.
Cool
They should play.
Amber.
They should play that more.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that that song, which kicked off one of our favorite second sets of all time, 12:30:18, that
Ooh,
song would have like really just like when they like have like a they're walking on stage like what do we play, what do we play, okay, cool, we'll do this.
yeah, that's
You would
that's
think that that would
odd.
have hung in there. It's strange that we haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the set list here from that Trey Trio weekend, and a couple that immediately come to mind for me. I would love to hear the Endless Dream again. I really dug that song. I'm a fan. Um, uh, what else?
You just want to see
Oh,
20,000 people at MSG at once screaming "Grandma's Perfect Sunday Sauce."
the lyrics in that are really funny,
I
but I like the
I
chorus and I
wouldn't
like the
mind
jam it led to. Um,
like that.
Splinters of Hail. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Splinters
Okay.
of Hail, which came off of Party Time, and they played that weekend. Ghost of the
Gone.
Forest, the
Party time.
actual what song? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Long
Gone.
time ago.
They
Yeah,
played
Gone was
once.
great. Ghost of the Forest, the song Ghost of the Forest, I would really love to hear them play that at some point in time. I'm gonna pull up a Ghost of the Forest set because I know there's a couple here that I would love to get. In Long Lines, I thought was a really nice ballad. There's a Path Above, I always really dug. The Green Truth, I really dug.
I
I
like
would
Silence
really
Escape. And then they played Setless Escape a few times.
They played a nice version of that in
Right.
Mexico. I would love to get the Beneath the Sea of Stars parts 1, 2, and 3. I would love to get that at some point in time. Just open up the second set with that and just see what happens. But definitely a bunch of really great songs within the larger catalog that have been debuted and have never really been played because there's so many goddamn songs for them to play. It's just
Mhm.
it's another aspect of 4.0 Phish that is just wild. There's so much for them to
I'd
do.
love to hear them play Glide 2 again.
Oh yeah,
I
that would be
mean,
pretty.
I'm currently in the Glide 2, the 50% club, but
You are. I wonder if there's anyone that was at the 5. There's got to be someone
oh
who's at
yeah,
5/16/95 and 12/30/18. That seems like a pretty easy crossover.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like just this broader question of where Phish is at right now. Is there anything that like okay,
Hmm.
I'm just gonna throw this at you. They debut that like kind of gimmicky, but I thought pretty interesting EDM style jam out of uh
What's going through your
was
mind?
what's going through your mind on New Year's Eve. Is there any style of music you would love to hear kind of start to evolve into Fish jams, the way that funk did, the way that um, ambient music did, the way that minimalistic kind of rave grooves did in the late 90s? Is there any sort of style of music you'd love to hear this band kind of tap into for a tour and just like color the sound?
Um, well, getting back to the December 30th, 2018 show we were just talking about, after Cool Amber Mercury, they play, what is it? It's like Everything's Right. Is that the
Oh
okay,
yeah.
right. One of
Oh
the
yeah.
earlier Everything's Right. 15
One of
minutes,
our favorites, just like
incredible,
beautiful, beautiful stuff.
incredible, gorgeous shoegaze style jam where it's just like a wall of sound and Trey's playing this beautiful melody. So I would love to hear him lean into that. He's got the pedals to do it. he has the rig where he can play curtains of sound, curtains, this like ambient wash where you're just getting like a great melody. He kind of hinted at that in Evans's Yola Tango Noise Jams. Well, yeah, of course, kind of like two sides of the same coin with that. Sort of, you kind of get hints of that on the most recent tour on the first night in Seattle in the second set. The version of what's going through your mind at the end, the last 3 minutes is like a very sustained, very heavy melodic. He's not playing a lot of notes, but the notes he's playing are sustained, interesting, and loud, and the rest of the band builds behind him. So I would say less machine gun tray, more eyes closed, staring up at the heavens, curtain of sound, let it wash over you, shoegaze. The first Verve album, Storm in Heaven. Give me some Gravity Grave. Give me some Star Sail. Give me yeah. Trey's got to go pick up a copy of the Storm in Heaven. Do that. I know they wrote.
I really love that
we're
I just got to interrupt you really quickly because we're 8 years into this thing. We're 133 episodes and we've got full Dave GPT going. I asked you what sound we would like Phish to embody, and you say shoegaze, just like you would in 2017. Some things never change, folks.
Well, look, I mean, the classic British shoegaze. The whole idea beyond the pond is to get you to listen to other shit. So
that's it.
Listen to the first Verve album.
I totally agree with you. Before I give you my thoughts, I want to share. We got a bit of loving shade here from Dan Weg a little earlier when we were talking about concise Phish and the need for sets to be 75 minutes. Said that baseball is not concise; it takes its time, and I think that there's a fair point to be made there. Maybe the fourth quarter diversion. Well, so we're getting into extras here. So that would be. Would that be like an encore jam? Would be the Ghost Runner that actually like scored, or what the Giants did last night, where they plated 9 runners in the 11th inning against the Cubs, which apparently was a historical feat. I was blown away, but that's a fair burn. I feel seen. We love baseball. We love how it takes its time. I think that we're just, we're overserved sometimes. We're so overserved with great music that when you give me an 85-minute Phish set that I have to consume, that's time I could be spending listening to, whenever Riley Walker puts out his next album, I could just be spinning that, type of thing. So you said shoegaze. I am going to say if there's any sound that I wish that Phish would embody, it is that most recent Natural Information Society Bitch and Baja's album. Okay. These like slow moving, hypnotic, minimalistic jazz grooves. We know that they can do it. Like use the marimba. Some Fukuoka stuff. Use the marimba luminas to set up some weird atmospheric kind of xylophone rhythmic stuff. Mike's got all of the effects where he can create this kind of wall of sound. Page on the synthesizers. Trey setting some weird loop on his guitar, playing some beautiful, fully connected riff over the top of everything. Like let's get into some weird minimalistic grooves that kind of, we call them zones in that world. Let's get into the emeralds zones, the space that will carry us to the next frontier. That is what I would absolutely love to hear a little bit more fit into the Phish sound.
It's kind of a throwback to in 2019 when David Marchese interviewed Trey for the New York Times. And he said, this is kind of weird, but I was at a show in Toronto, was on something, and I thought I was controlling the band. So I'd love to have some jams where it feels like individuals in the audience are controlling the band. They get into those zones. You just look at them, you're like, they're doing this because I'm telling them to do it in my mind.
Yeah. I'm here for that space. I'm here for that energy. All right, let's focus in here on spring 25 and on where we are and where we're going to go next. Did you hear? We've been talking about kind of new sounds in Fish. Did you hear any like similar, different approach to the jamming in Spring 25 compared to the last couple of years? Like when you think about the best jams of Spring 2025, how would you compare them to the best jams of Summer 24, the best jams of Spring 23?
It kind of reminded me a lot of Spring 23, and
Yeah.
that it seemed like expectations went out the window, and every show was guaranteed to be awesome in its own way. In terms of the sounds that Trey is using, it seemed like there was a lot of carryover from the holiday tour 2024. There wasn't quite as much rotary chorus as there was in 2024. That was the Keeley rotary pedal, which he could not get enough of, that like watery sound. Every time you go, what's that watery sound? Why is that thing that sounds like Trey's playing underwater? It sounds like a Leslie cabinet. So you didn't get quite as much of that. You got lots of delay. I kept saying lots of envelope filter, which is kind of like the wah infused Jerry Garcia sounds. Um, but I just think for some reason these April spring shows they on the West Coast, they seem very freeing to the band. Maybe because they're not very long, because they're only like 8 shows. They want to let it all hang out. They want to do some experimentation to see how it's going to translate to that summer. But they've been. I mean, for me on the East Coast, it's kind of I don't stay awake for the entire show. I usually watch the first set, pass out, and then when I have to get up to pee at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm 45 years old, I'll check my phone to say, "Oh, okay, that second set looks great. I'll listen to it tomorrow." Um, does that answer the question? I mean,
Yeah, no. I think from a sonic standpoint, I think you're right. When I'm looking through some of my favorite jams from this overall tour, the Ruby Waves is unquestionably my favorite jam of the year, and I think it has
really,
kind of a lot of yeah, it's just got everything I'm looking for, and it has this like mixture of that kind of watery, effects driven segment early. And then I think the biggest difference, and I think this is the biggest difference to even 2 very good years that preceded this from a Trey performance standpoint, the ability for him to put together these very clear-minded, fully thought out riffs that just carry the band in the way that he used to play in the mid 90s, where it was just like you're thinking this up on the fly. How did you just come up with this melody that aligns with the rest of your band, and you're going through all of the motions to the peak all on the fly, like what is going on here? That jam has one of those riffs like that. I think the light also from the
mm,
Hollywood Bowl, that was another one of my favorite jams of this overall year.
yeah,
That
that's
really,
probably my second favorite. Yeah, it's probably top three. Certainly, that
yeah,
light, the 20 minutes. That's opening up wormholes. That's like we keep talking about, like Zooropa style jamming, meaning
yes.
lots of wah and delay and delay and wah and whack 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 whack. A lot of that light.
It was one of those brilliant, like in the moment camera shot moments in the webcast that happens every so often where like the band is deep in a jam and like the director of the webcast is just perfectly calls up the right shot and just hangs on it. The camera was behind Fishman as he was just like going back and forth across his toms. And it just looked like he was doing that thing he describes in the New York article where he like plays something he's never played before, on the drums. And over the drum, you could see Trey like on the wah, like you could see his back, and he was just fully into the jam. And that whole jam was just like locked in without really much of an interest in a peak in a way that we really love. Really just exploratory but minimalistic, just heavy jamming. I think to all of this, like in some cases, all of this feels like a carryover from spring 2023. I don't feel like it's an uncharted era, both age wise, time wise, but also the fact that like you would have expected the downturn to have happened 2023, 2024, 2025, you would have expected at some point them to have one of those like off periods, and they're
Right.
just not.
No.
And so, it's hard to compare greatness to greatness in that sort of way. But I think sonically speaking, the biggest difference right now is that Trey is just capable, like the Haleys, for example, from San Francisco. Not only do we get the longest Haleys since 12/7/99, but we also get like this midsection of the jam where Trey is like tearing us up to the peak through a fully conceived of riff that could have been, you know, your lead guitarist in a rock band spends hours in the studio trying to come up with that perfect solo to go on the hit single. Trey just comes up out with it on the fly, and it just like boom, right there it happens. So like that aspect of their jamming, I'm really curious to hear how that impacts them with the summer tour so close around, because Trey's just playing at a very high level. You know, even in the late 2010s, even in parts of early 4.0, he was sometimes behind this, under the surface a little bit, adding color, adding tone. He's very much leading these jams in a really profound way that I'm curious to hear how that continues to evolve and adapt as they go forward.
And he's also still very capable of just ripping it up when he wants to. Case in point, the Hollywood Bowl of Chalk Dust Torture, which is the bastard child of the Camden Chalk Dust and the July 13th, 2014 Chalk Dust from Randall's Island, both of which are
Yes,
top 10 versions. So,
very much.
yeah, that was that first set, aside from that Chalk Dust Torture, is one of the weaker ones on the tour. But the Chalk Dust is probably like a top. I mean, for me, it's probably a top 10 jam. So
It's a huge jam, and yeah, you're right. This is the type of thing that is not happening 6 years ago, 7 years ago,
no.
where the staple set one jam is directly being led by Trey in this sort of manner. So it's really cool stuff. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations as we move into summer? Are you going to any shows? Any kind of expectations about where Phish is going to be?
I am seeing the first two shows in New Hampshire and night one at Forest Hills. If somebody wanted to give me a ticket to night two at Forest Hills, I consider it. That was a very hard ticket, pretty expensive ticket. So I could be happy with the one night. I mean, seeing three shows for the summer, I'm fine with that, and I'll webcast the rest. I think also the night before Forest Hills, Primus is playing at Pier 17. I might want to go see that. So that would be that and Phish back to back. Get my Trey, get my Les, do a little Oysterhead, kind of Oysterheady 2-night show. What am I expecting? I think generally speaking, the summer shows, they tend to have a little more of like a crowd pleasing, more songy type first sets than the spring shows on the West Coast do. They're also playing more shows, but I mean, I don't really have any reason to think it's going to be any worse. I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. I've looked forward having a nice, fun little road trip driving up from New York to New England. I'm very much looking forward to that because I haven't, for me and my friends, I haven't done that since summer 22. We drove up to like Bethel Woods, stayed in the town of Livingston Manor. So I think this time we have an Airbnb. I want to say the town is called Derry. It's like 18 minutes from like Manchester.
Mm.
Plus the venue's indoors. I don't want it to rain, but if it does, at least I won't be miserable.
Yeah, it's always fun to see a summer show indoors as
Yeah.
well. It kind of doesn't make sense, and then the lights come on, and it's just like, whoa! All right, we're
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah, I think like musically speaking, the evolution from spring 23, summer 23, parts of MSG 23, at least, the New Year's Eve run. The 29th had some pretty solid moments. The 31st was obviously very special. Mexico 24, Summer Sphere, Summer 24, Dick's 24, 12, 29, 24, and then this spring tour 25. Like, there's been enough truly capital G great Phish over the last 2 years that even when there is maybe a down show or a couple of shows in a row that don't necessarily hit, I mean, I thought this summer 2024 tour was absolutely outstanding.
Mm.
From the jump, those Great Wood shows are great. There's no real slow build to the peak of the tour. It's really just solid Phish out the gates. I would have been very happy to have just caught those Great Wood shows. Um, Mohegan was really killer. Alpine was a little up and down, but had a really cool simple on night 2. Deer Creek was outstanding. Bethel was
Slade.
outstanding.
Yeah, Deer Creek and Bethel. Right.
Deer Creek and Bethel were really and then Dick's, so like I think the music's gonna be great. I am very curious. This feels like their first let's toss the tour routing up in the air and see what happens
Oh
tour
God,
since
the routing is very strange.
it's very strange. It's a lot of not new markets, but like markets they don't typically go to. It reminds me in some ways, scheduling wise, of summer 2016. And that slightly worries me. That's the only thing that worries me is just like, are they going to be out of their comfort zone? And as a result, like play it a little bit safe because it's potentially new ish fans. But I don't really have those concerns because of how great the music has been throughout.
Right.
I want to really quickly. Well, I want to ask you this, and then I want to
Yeah.
address a listener question. Give me your favorite show and your favorite jam from summer or from spring 25.
Favorite show was Night One of Bill Graham, and my favorite jam was probably The Light from Hollywood Bowl.
That's good stuff. My favorite show was as well Bill Graham, night 1, 422. I'll give a shout out for 423 as well because I felt like that was a great carryover from night 1. The simple
Amazing
punch in the
gumbo.
eye, amazing gumbo, 30-minute tweezer. Like, what are you really going to complain about here? Like, just awesome stuff from Phish. My favorite jam, I mentioned it, the Ruby Waves on 422. All right, I want to address a question here because I appreciate Shermith for asking this twice. It's a good point. It's a good question. He's asking if I can make my list public, like a live Phish playlist posted from HF Pod. You know what? I appreciate the question. I will do this. I'm going to put this into a Medium post where we have like all of our past episode information, some HF Pod stuff, and I'll share that. I'll share that in the notes for this episode. Maybe not this. I'll get it out there, but I'm gonna put it in a Medium post. I can't guarantee I'll get it tonight, but I will get it online so that you guys can see some of my lists from the last couple of years. Just to kind of track where my head's at. I'll even post 2025 ahead of the summer tour, which I appreciate you asking, and I'll be excited to share with you. Hopefully, it turns some people on to some great jams and some great albums, which is a great segue because our final segment of tonight's episode, as I can see Dave at 11:15, he's already been through a hellacious Nick win. Now he's been through 90 minutes of podcasting. We said we were going to go live for 75 minutes today. We're going to probably push towards that 2-hour mark. I feel like that's just our sweet spot, Dave. We got to just accept it. But our final segment of today's episode. So this is our first episode of 2025, which we will make do and we will make good on a couple more of these throughout the year. It's been fun hanging with you guys all, but we're going to talk about a few new albums. We're going to talk about music 2025 in general here for a second, and then recommend a few of our favorite records for this year. I don't want to tip my hat here, so I'm just going to ask you, what have you felt about music being released in 2025 thus far, 5 months into the year?
I've actually liked 2025. There was I have 3 albums I want to talk about here, but I could have picked from at least. There's been at least 9 or 10 things I've been listening to and enjoying on a pretty regular basis, which in this day and age, for me, like 5 months into the year, if there's 10 albums I really like, I'm pretty happy with that. There's also been some. Let me just take bear with me for 1 second. I just want to, let's see.
Getting the
There's
old
even
list up.
not even a list. I just want to see what's been going on with my Apple. Like there's been some things from old codgers that I've enjoyed, like Dean Warham from Luna and Galaxy 500, put out a really excellent solo record called "That's the Price of Loving Me." Listen to that. The very, very, very long running band Mekons put out a new record called Horror, which is very good. They almost kind of have the Phish like thing of, despite being around for God over 50 years, they put out new records and they're going to play them live. So that's been really good. Dan Behar, Destroyer, put out excellent new record. I think of him as an old codger. That's not the ones I'm going to talk about here, but that's a really good album. Bob Mould, old codger, great new record. So all that stuff is basically older artists putting out very solid records for, the fan base that can sell out 2,000 seat venues, even less, maybe like 1,500 seat venues at this point. But they keep pumping out the good stuff for the people who still listen. So I'm happy with those. But in addition to the older acts, there's been a handful of newer things I've enjoyed. I think I've actually liked 2025 more than 2024 at this point.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. See, because my follow-up question here was, has the wave crested on the incredible releases of the last 5-7 years? Because I have found, I mean, I've got 42 albums currently on a top albums list.
I've seen
but
it.
You've seen it. It was updated today. I feel like maybe at the top, I haven't found that one record this year that I have just loved, like to the point, like how last year, the new Vampire Weekend, I listened to that probably 100 times last year. I mean, no exaggeration. The MJ Lenderman album, the Cindy Lee album, the Brittany Howard, Mary Halverson, like these were records that like throughout the year I just listened to on repeat. Even when I had like, Phish listening projects I had to do. If I look at 2023, let me pull up my 2023 list. Where are you? There you are. Yola Tango, Blake Mills, the Black Duck record, the James Brandon Lewis records, the London Odense Ensemble albums. These were just like 2022, the Kikigako Moyo, the King Gizzard, that Big Thief record that we loved. Destroyer put out Labyrinthitis that we loved. Angel Olsen's Big Time. I guess I'm just waiting on one of those records. I don't feel like I've had one of those records come out and just like bowl me over this year. I have 3 records I do want to recommend, and I have to say that somewhat regrettably, the new William Tyler is like an outstanding album that I keep listening to. I've listened to 3 times now because it's just so good. And it's so different from anything he's done in the past. I don't know. I don't know if I'm just like, I have too many listening projects right now within Jam Band
no, like you
Myopia.
said, you're waiting for a classic.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there hasn't really. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of records I like. There hasn't been one that's really grabbed me by the throat yet. I mean, I have what just came out today? The new single from
New Nourished by Time is out today. I can't wait for that record.
Okay. Hold on. The new one from
the new Neil Young record where he takes This Land Is Your Land and sings over it about American
No,
Cars Going Electric.
the new one from Ryan Davis and the Roadhouse Band. He put
Mm.
out a new song today, the title track for New Threats from the Soul. 9 minutes, totally awesome. Very David Berman, Bill Callahan, all that good shit. His last record I liked a lot, and I thought, all right, the next one is going to be the one that pushes him over the top into like MJ London and Manning Fireworks territory. And yeah, this new song is quite promising. So
Who is that again? Tell me. I'm going to put him in my Apple.
Ryan Davis and the Roadhouse Band.
Perfect. Everyone else, take note of this as well. Dave's given us our first recommendation of the episode here.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, the one thought I have just based on this like lack of, for me personally, no like big classic is I feel like one of the defining factors of the last 5 to 7 years of new albums was by the end of February, you were already like, is this the best year of music ever? You know, like, and maybe that was just like part of COVID. Maybe that was just like a lot of artists kind of at a creative high, and a lot of things are changing right now, economically, politically, socially, and the music hasn't totally caught up to that. But like, do you feel like there's any sort of lag from the last couple of years, or are you cool with just like the everything's really solid, really good right now? The classic is coming.
Yeah, like generally speaking, I mean, in January and February, that's kind of records that either come out then or things that aren't very good because, or younger indie bands that are looking to get really recognized because less like, major, a lot of the big major records either come out like around the holidays to kind of getting under the gun for like best of 20, best year of lists, year end lists. A lot of major records kind of come out around like late May, so you can kind of like blast them in the summertime. So, I mean, I've been reasonably happy with what's come out this January and like February. But yeah, nothing like the Manning Fireworks of 2025 hasn't come out yet.
Right.
But it could be that Ryan Davis record, which comes out in July. So I've just heard the first single.
Well, regardless if we have a classic that's coming or if we're in a transitional period in our little corner of the music world, that is still to be seen. We're not even at the halfway mark. Just a trend I've been noticing. Maybe it's just like I said, I've become such a more myopic listener than I was even like 4 years ago. So I may have a lot to do with this. Let's go through. We came up with a list of 3 records, though, from early 2025 that we would recommend to you all. I'm going to throw the album title and artist into the onto the screen so that anyone watching still can check it out. Dave, give me a record from this year that you recommend our listeners check out. Give us a little bit of a breakdown.
Okay. I have a record that I think came out 2 weeks ago by a guy named Jerry David DeCiccia. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. It's called Cardiac Country. It's he's a Texas-based singer-songwriter. I think he used to be in a band called the Black Swans. The record he put out 2 years ago. What was that album called? I forget.
Oh, keep talking. I'm going to look it up. I'll have it right in a second.
Okay.
That was, oh, wait, here. Oh, nope. That's not going to be it. Here we go. I'm right there. That was called New Shadows.
New Shadows.
Shadows.
Excellent album. Very much sounded like 80s Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, 80s Dylan. I mean, he purposely went for like an 80s synth sheen, but excellent songs, very well written. It kind of made me a fan of him. Now his new record, Cardiac Country is much more of, I guess, like an alt country album, you could say.
Yeah.
It's oh, my camera just went away. Here.
It's very different from New
Yeah.
Shadows, but just as great.
He really employs the services of a pedal steel player by the name of BJ Cole. I think he even gets a co-write on a lot of the songs. It's just this gorgeous pedal steel winding its way throughout the record like a lazy river. He often plays with a phaser effect on it, which is really cool. But it's just well written, very well produced, very well mixed. You can hear every instrument. It's kind of like a lazy river back porch album. I mean, some of the song topics are just about like, hanging out till midnight, not doing very much. He's got one song, which is the true story about him literally finding like a stray chihuahua at a concert and like taking him home. Some of the lyrics are a bit of like slice of life hokey, but with his vocals and the songwriting and the lazy pedal steel, it's just a very attractive package for if you enjoy kind of like the more dad rocky back porch Rose City Band lazy summer stuff that we talk about on this show. I think you'd really enjoy really dig Cardiac Country by Jerry David DeCisa.
Yeah, as my current number 11 album this year, and I've only given it one spin. So if it made it that high, we're in a really good spot right now. I definitely recommend this as well. He's an artist that I need to do a full album deep dive on, because if you do this after you did New Shadows, there's something going on in your brain that is like, I don't have one style of music, I just make
Yeah,
music, and I want to hear that whole evolution. So very much into that. Shifting gears slightly, but a record I keep coming back to is Julia Hulsman, Under the Surface. This is a jazz quartet. Very chill, but it's got a great little groove to it throughout. Pretty exploratory without going into kind of like the Mary Halverson weirdness. This is a little bit more of an accessible listen than we had last year with Muriel Grossman's Devotion, with like massive 20-minute long sax jams. This one feels a little bit more like the type of music you can read a little bit to. Feels like you're in a really modern but woodsy Scandinavian home, kind of set into a mountain, making some nice pasta on a Thursday evening after cross country skiing. Just got a great vibe to it. I've gone back to this a bunch. It's got enough that's really surprising on it, and listeners of this show, listeners of followers of kind of the music I listen to, anything with world jazz has really taken over for me. Like if you combine North Central Europe and jazz, I'm kind of all in already. Like I'm halfway there, and this just completely does it for me. Have you listened to this record yet?
I have not. I have to. I need to. But it's that high up for you. I will listen to it.
Yeah, as my current number 3, you
Okay.
would absolutely dig this. Just an excellent vibe. I'm here for it. I'm here for the ladies that love to freak out on the jazz. Like just give it to me. That's it. So Julia Hulsman, Under the Surface. What is your next record you want to recommend for the listeners?
My number 2 is a California by way of Brooklyn band called Mama, Momma. Also the name of my 6-year-old daughter's purple stuffed rabbit. True story. Mama, where's Mama? I can't fall asleep without Mama. So their new album is called Welcome to My Blue Sky. So Mama is very much in my wheelhouse in that it's kind of grungy, expertly produced, 90s inspired rock and roll. We're talking late 90s, kind of like 10 Things I Hate About You core. Definitely some Juliana Hatfield. One of my good friends from college, a guy named Corey Thompson, who I text music recommendations back and forth to. I said, this is a very Corey Thompson coded record. and he said, "Oh, this came up on my Spotify yesterday. It's great, but it sounds just like Juliana Hatfield." And it kind of does have that like '90s female rock power pop sound to it. But nearly every song is good. There's like some shoegaze songs. There's some songs where the guitars get heavy, like the Deftones. Um, there's acoustic songs, and it's, again, very well recorded. It's very crisp. It's very clean. It's one of the things. The first song I put it on, I'm like, oh yeah, all right, I'm gonna enjoy this. And I actually listened to the whole thing from start to finish the first time I put it on, which I never do nowadays. So, Mama, Welcome to My Blue Sky, the album that came out before that, I think called Household Name, is also very good. I think this is their fourth album, but they opened for Pavement when Pavement was
That's
playing.
big.
Yeah, Pavement was playing a string of shows around here, and Steve Malkmus liked them enough to say, "Come open for us." The band had tickets to that Pavement show that they had to sell because if you're, don't need to have the tickets from open for the band. So, yeah, if you're a fan of '90s inspired grungy female power pop, catchy well produced, Mama, Welcome My Blue Sky.
That is our Dave Core album for the
Yeah.
episode. We all have them. I got to give that another spin because you love it as much as you do. That kind of like, I think I was 1 to 2 years too young for that like power pop aspect of the mid 90s to really appreciate it, and that was like right in your wheelhouse. So I need to give that another spin. All right, my next record is, I think you love this record. We're gonna find out right now, live on air. This feels like the updated Turnpike Troubadours record from 2017 that we loved so much. This is a achingly beautiful country rock album called Big Ugly by Fust. Killer songwriting, killer production, melodies that will just make you kind of weep while looking out at a sunset. You can kind of feel the dust in your hair. I really dig this record a lot. I listened to it again today, and there's just a bunch of lyrical passages that kind of just stop you in your tracks and pull you in. The musicality throughout it, the performance throughout it, is very tight. It's very warm. Feels like a friend just kind of playing songs on a back patio. It's just got a really good vibe to it that, as it warms up here in Denver, as we kind of move into the end of spring, into summer, things are green, things are beautiful. There's a lot of back patio time right now. And this album really feels like a back patio album for summer 2025. A friend of the pod, Steve Hayden, would call this a patio classic. So this will be soundtracking many barbecues and many flat top grill sessions throughout summer 2025 for me. I can feel it, like pre-show Phish, when the webcast is just on the hold screen, stay tuned, and you're like, I've got time for one more record while I finish the burgers outside so that we can then eat and watch the Phish. This is the record that's going on.
That's a great record. I like that record very much. I don't hear as much Turnpike Troubadours. I hear more Granddaddy. It reminds me a lot of Granddaddy's Someday, the Sophomore Slump, because the dude's voice reminds me a lot of kind of like the high-pitched, reedy voice of Granddaddy's Jason Lytle. Yeah, I agree. That's a very excellent record. That's probably in my top 10 of this year as well. I forget what the second song is called, but I love the second song so fucking much. That album.
That is the song. That is the song.
Store or something like Maggie's Store, or I don't know. It's yeah.
No, that's it. I hear the lead singer, to me, sounds a lot like the Canadian singer songwriter Doug Paisley, who I love a lot. It's got this very kind of like a bell quality, but like aching and sad, a little bit worn down as well. Really dig what they're doing from a lyrical standpoint, from a vocal standpoint. And yeah, that second song, I'm blanking on the name, but
Mm.
second song of the album, just go to it. It'll rip you up.
I think
All right. Yeah.
what's his name? Sam Sadomsky from the late lamented excellent Osiris podcast called Late Era. He has a singer-songwriter project called The Bird Calls. I think he recently opened up for Fust. That's
Oh,
pretty cool.
really?
Yeah,
That's very cool. What an opportunity. Love
yeah.
Sam.
They played a show at Union Pool that I would have gone to if I were not out of town. I forget exactly what it was, but I was not available. Otherwise, I would have gone because Union Pool holds 80 people. So with
Good
any
spot
luck,
for sure.
they'll be back playing like Bowery, which holds like 550. So anyway, okay.
I dig it. What's our last one from you, Dave?
Last album, which is probably my favorite album of the year so far. I want to listen to it a lot. It's a strutting record. As I walk down Grand Street here in New York City in my neighborhood, I want to put this record on. It is a band called The Convenience, and the album is called Like Cartoon Vampires. This is basically cool dudes sounding cool. Think Spoon, think Parquet Courts. Just I get a lot of Spoon, especially in the first song, but kind of like the lackadaisical, been there, done that, cool of the like Parquet Courts guy, especially like Wide Awake era Parquet Courts. Um, I guess a little more post punky than either of those bands. Kind of like some of your more recent post punk progenitors, like the band Corridor, Omni, FACS, I pronounce Facts. That kind of post punk applied to the Spoon motif of Britt Daniel, just like being cool and like walking down the street and like stealing your girl, that type of thing.
That's the vibe right there.
Yeah. And it's you just put it on and it goes just like one song to the next, like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. No need the skip. Great. Great. Where's the rock and roll? Oh, there's a rock and roll. There's my dues. There's my guys. And they are playing Union Pool on June 21st. I'm seeing Phish, so I will miss seeing The Convenience in an 80-seat venue, but they'll be back. So
I listened to that album for the first time today and absolutely loved it. I was listening to it in the car while driving my daughter to work or to school, and she goes, "Daddy, what song is this?" And it was whatever first song on the album. She's like, "Daddy, who is this?" I was like, "I don't know. Dave recommended it to me. It sounds really cool." And she was like, "Yeah, it sounds very cool." So
Ingrid,
you know, 4-year-olds
Ingrid gets it.
feeling like the Convenience are cool as well. A lot of you referenced Parquet Courts, Wide Awake, the song Freebird too, which is my favorite song on that album. You get a lot of that throughout here. Big, chunky, just like, earworm chords, great choruses, that very, very cool vibe that like these are guys that walk into the party and immediately take everything over in the best way possible. But they're like nice to everyone, that type of vibe. So
Yeah.
I dig this album. I'm going to be listening to it a ton more. Really, really good stuff. All right, my last record I want to recommend is my favorite record of the year so far. This is an album by an artist who put out an album in 2023 that every single person who knows me texted me and said, "You will love this album." And I didn't really love the album. It was a very strange thing. I was just like, it's not doing it for me. And then this album came out, and I suddenly was like, oh, this is what I was missed. Like this is what this guy can do. This is Blue Lake Weft. And this is a kind of in the spirit of your William Tyler, kind of in the spirit of Sea Wind to Battery, your kind of ambient, lush, guitar zony album. I'm super into this. It's like 5 tracks, all somewhere around 8 to 10 minutes long. Um, Strange melodies will form, and then some soundscapes will emerge, and then some noise and some destruction, and then the melodies will come back, and you're kind of just like spinning and hanging in this dream space. It's produced so well. You can hear like everything crystal clear. Anything that comes underneath the melody just feels like it like invades slowly and then rises up. I mean, it's just it's really really quality and adventurous musicianship and instrumental playing fused with really excellent production. I'm super into this album. This has been kind of my go-to when I finish some sort of jam band listening project. I jump into this album because I just really like living in the space of it. I read a lot, and so it's nice to have a record like this that you can throw on in the background and feel without thinking too much about. So I'm super into this. This does I want to be clear, like when I kind of was complaining a little bit earlier on about the quality of music in 2025, this is kind of part of it because this feels like a number 5, number 6 favorite album of the year for me, and instead I've got it as my number 1. So like it'll be interesting to see where this lands by year's end. I don't think we're done by any means with kind of how the year will grace us with new music. But for right now, this is my number 1 favorite album of the year, and I definitely recommend, and I will continue to recommend, regardless what happens in 2025, Blue Lakes Weft.
It's a very good album. It's very Brimping core,
Deeply.
but I listened to it a few times, and it's a good cloud gazing, lying on your back. The deer comes up to you. You feed the deer by like the crystal blue stream type record. So yeah,
That's the vibe. It's a
it's a
good
good
vibe.
album. All
So
right.
those are 6 records that we recommend to you guys. Give you a chance to kind of catch up with where we're at this point in time. What else do we got? I think we're almost 2 hours here. We're just gonna make it under. Anything else that you want to share with our listeners before we leave?
No, I've got to go. I have a date in my phone, so I can just look at like Nick's memes for like an hour.
What a night for you. My
I just
God.
have to keep reliving that.
Yeah, you guys, huge comebacks.
And the Mets won today. It's
m-
good.
Yeah, so you had a good sports day. I had Arsenal lose, and I had the Cubs lose to the Giants, their first home series loss since early April. Not a good sports day. I don't have anything for basketball because my basketball team is an absolute atrocity and an absolute embarrassment. And the Nuggets, my other team, are getting blown out in Oklahoma City right now. But we're gonna
We're
just
gonna
give
do
you
more of
list.
these. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna try.
we're gonna do more of these. The live thing's easy. It's been really fun having people in here hanging with us. Thank you guys so much for taking some time, sharing their thoughts, asking questions. Really, really cool. Fun for us to kind of have this be a little bit more of a casual hang. I'm gonna post this on our feed either tonight or tomorrow. Should be up here shortly for anyone who didn't get to see the live show. But we'll be back. We got more we want to talk about. We got a couple big emails that we got over the winter that we haven't really sorted out live. We'll maybe turn a few of those into episodes, but send us an email, beyond the pond podcast at gmail.com. If there's anything you want us to talk about, if there's any record you want us to listen to, any era of Phish you think we should talk about, anything to kind of get us like sparked that, hey, let's go live on a Wednesday night and chat. So
Yeah.
Excited to do it. We'll obviously be back to talk a bit about Phish Summer 2025 as well.
All right. And on that note, thanks for hanging with us. We always appreciate it. We appreciate the drama that the New York Knicks have been bringing to the Eastern Conference semifinals. 2 wins away for the first Eastern Conference final since 2000. Jeff Van
Crazy.
Gundy era.
Crazy.
It was some Charlie Ward. Yeah. Hold hands. We'll sing Kumbaya. And as always, we'll go beyond the pond.